Welcome to part 2 in my All-AMD Console PC series, where we build, like the title suggests, an all-AMD gaming system like the 9800X3D and the Radeon 9070 XT we used in part 1. This time we're going taller, thinner, longer, and 1 liter smaller than the reference Form T1 from before. And probably the most futuristic boutique small form factor case in production, the Tetra S from Thorzone. But what do we lose by going smaller? Mostly cooling. The Tetra S caps our cooling clearance to just 55mm to something like the Thermalright EXP90X53 full copper CPU cooler from the IS77 XT and the Noctua 140mm Chromax fans from part 1. That means the 9800X3D will have a tougher time with the limited cooling options available. That's why we're going with the Ryzen 5 7600X3D. Despite being based on the older Zen 4 architecture with 2 fewer cores than the lower stock TDP, the 7600X3D holds strongly in 1080p and 1440p, going toe-to-toe with the 9800X3D in certain titles and thermally restricted environments. Which makes sense when you realize the 9800X3D can pull close to 145 watts in dense workloads or shader compilations, and in games we pull closer to 90 watts. But the value proposition speaks louder. Apart from the CPU, we're sticking to the same hardware setup from part 1. The B850i Strix, a well-balanced offer from ASUS, 32GB of DDR5 memory from Team Group's T-Crate Expert line, a sleek black kit, and a 1TB Samsung 990 Pro Gen 4 M.2 SSD. A very solid combination with the PowerColor RX 9070 XT Reaper, which we previously undervolted by 100mV and reduced the power limit by 10%. I originally planned to use the 9070 non-XT, but when it arrived, it was just too long for the Tetra S. I basically assumed all ASUS Prime cards follow NVIDIA's small form factor rated guidelines, but why would they? The 312mm length is just 5mm too long. Let's take a look at the Tetra S, the console to our console style PC, 3.5 liters smaller than the R variant, which we reviewed last year. 10 to 43mm smaller in the depth, width, and height, with less overall space for hardware. However, the concept is the same. Packaged super well, protecting the absolutely stunning black carbon finish, beautiful yet functional struts on the front, concealing the USB Type-C port, the sliding lock mechanism, and the optional chrome strut as the power button. The part of the case you actually build in is revealed when you slide off the single extruded aluminum unibody shell, with massive cutouts adding to the case's striking appearance. The accessory kit is one of those quality of life things that make the base price of $280 easier to swallow. It really shows careful attention to detail and really sets them apart from other premium offerings. My specific setup costs around $384, which includes the optional chrome feet, chrome power button, PCIe 5.0 riser cable, and of course the case itself. Gaining access is really simple. Unlock the right strut. Sliding the single unibody shell is easy, but the aluminum on aluminum chafing is hard to listen to. Fortunately, you don't have to do it 1,000 times like me. Quickly you begin forming a visual on where each component goes. You get support for 3-slot cards, SFX and SFXL power supplies, and an ITX motherboard. In the Tetra, it's a good idea to install your accessories first: USB-C, riser, power switch, and a power adapter. Doing this later is extremely difficult or impossible. Our motherboard somewhat floats on 4 long standoffs. Install the 4 standoffs on the backplate side, drop in the board, lining up the riser with a PCIe slot. If you can't get it in, just ensure the riser is near the by a 16 slot so you can insert it from the back side. 4 screws secure the board from the back onto the standoffs before we install the PSU. I'm using the SFXL power supply, which does limit our movement in the case a bit. The PSU bracket secures 3 of the 4 holes and then to the back plate. Run all of your PSU cables, including the dual PCIe cables for our 9070 XT, which are for my DIY. Adding the GPU is probably the easiest. At an angle, insert it onto the riser, securing it in 2 locations, the bottom of the I/O bracket from the inside, and with a super clever aluminum block that locks the top of the card's I/O bracket into place and held in by 2 screws. We're left with 20mm of empty space in front of the card, plenty of space to avoid turbulence with the external shell. Before we close the case, I have the optional chrome feet, give you 2 possible positions, upright or flat for that true home theater PC look. I personally love the flat position, but we've tested it in the upright position as it's the best for thermals. Ensure all cables and components are tucked in when sliding the shell back on and locking it with the same strut. Our All-AMD Console PC is done, and yeah, I can't help but admire the engineering that went into the Tetra. There's nothing on the market that looks like it. I tested the 7600X3D and the 9800X3D to show the similarities and differences in gaming. We tested 9800X3D in both stock and with a 75-watt package power limit. For the best CPU to CPU comparison, we ran our 30-minute Cyberpunk 2077 benchmark in 1080p and 1440p with medium settings and high crowd density to stretch the CPU a bit. In Cyberpunk 2077 and 1080p medium, the 7600X3D falls 4% below the 9800X3D with 242 frames per second. The 7600X3D leads with 165 frames per second in the 1% lows, even though both CPUs have that 96 megabytes of L3 cache. The stock 9800X3D hits the thermal ceiling with the AXP90X53 full copper cooler and the conservative fan curve. The 7600X3D is 4 degrees cooler thanks to the lower CCD density despite the better thermal design on the 9800X3D with a cache layer below the CCD. The 7600X3D manages to pull less than the 9800X3D with that 75-watt power limit due to the difference in the number of cores. In 1440p medium setting, the landscape levels off due to being GPU limited to around 187 to 189 frames per second. Same marginal improvements in the 1% lows along with the same CPU power draw. This means that the 7600X3D is not only a better value, but delivers within 4% of the 9800X3D in 1080p and within 1% in 1440p in this specific test environment, all while being cooler and half the price. The 9070 XT is tuned pretty well, hovering around 80 degrees. Warmer than usual, but I prioritize low noise when gaming. We also ran the new Forza Horizon 6 and the performance was actually pretty good, well over 100 frames per second at 1440p. The noise in the system is well under control with the GPU and CPU capped. You can barely hear from a seated position. There is no turbulence near the CPU fan, as we are 2mm away from the CPU max clearance. There's plenty of space in front of the GPU, so turbulence is a non-issue. Overall, the Tetra S has really raised the bar. It looks more like a console than the T1 and the quality is next level. There is some room for improvement. The metal on metal chafing is hard to bear. However, I find the faster you go reduces the metal chafing overall. The price, while not the most expensive on the market, is still incredibly expensive, not accounting for taxes and shipping. With that being said, if you're deciding between the Tetra R and the Tetra S, get the S. I'm equally as impressed with the 7600X3D. It's an incredible value, perfect if you're gaming and maybe some light streaming. I see less of a reason to choose the 9800X3D for 1080p, 1440p, and even 4K gaming. You will get better multi-core performance with the newer 9800X3D, especially if you plan to have OBS or Discord open while you game. However, the 7600X3D proves that you can do just as much with less.